Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had an enjoyable Thanksgiving and had some delicious food too. Thanks everyone for joining us for the October edition of a virtual Heritage Wilmot meeting, and welcome to those viewing online, either live or afterwards as well. Moving on to the land acknowledgement, I will share that with the group. We have gathered virtually in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community. Next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Conflict of Interest Act. Any members have any pecuniary interest to disclose? Seeing none. Next, we'll move on to the minutes from the last meeting. Any comments, questions, omissions, additions? Could I have a motion to approve? Yvonne and Barry. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So on to business items now. I think I'll change the agenda up a little bit. We have Chris DeGreer here from the CHL project. So we had him under new business. So I think we'll move him up to the front. So as discussed last meeting, so Chris is here just to present about the project and what it's all about, ways to contribute, and builds on the earlier presentation that Bridget gave us a few months back. So with that, Tracy, unless you had any other intro, I'll turn things over to Chris. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you everybody for giving me the opportunity to present this evening. So we've been working on the CHL study now for a few months with participation, public participation being open. We're still facing a considerable headwind from the university in regards to our ability to meet face-to-face. I have been conducting interviews online with a few members of this committee as well. But I've found that it's extremely challenging for participants to provide the spatial data that we require for identifying the rough boundaries of these CHLs. So I've put that on hold until we're able to get to in-person interviews where I can collect that data. However, the interviews I have had have been with some really great participants who provided a tremendous amount of great verbal data. We've had the web-based survey open on the Region of Waterloo's website now for a few months. And I didn't anticipate there would be a great response rate for web-based surveys of that nature because they're quite complicated. However, this one's dismal. There was over 612 unique visits and 1 complete response. I received a picture of the mapping data today, and I thought, oh, well, at least there's some. And then I recalled that 3 of the polygons were mine that I developed when I was creating the instructional manual. So it's really challenging, and I implore you to please visit that website. And if there are any landscapes in the township which you think are worthy of being designated as a CHL or a candidate CHL, please do identify them and please pass the word on, because the spatial data is an important part of this project, and it's the one part that we're really struggling with bringing up to what we'd anticipate having before the report's completed.
Chris, if I can interrupt for a second. Yeah, anything we can do to try to help. I know that we've got a tile on wilmette.ca on the cultural heritage landscape, and if it helps, we can do another round of tweets and on our social media as well to see if we can round up perhaps maybe Yvonne might remember if we another article or something like I think there was an article in the summer, right? Or something But if there's something
I
beyond.
don't remember when I wrote that article.
But if there's something more we can do or revisit what we originally did, we certainly would be happy to do that to bring more attention.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be really fantastic. And thank you for that offer. And perhaps doing another round of tweets is a good idea. I personally find it really interesting that there was over 600 visits. So clearly people are clicking, but somehow they're not following through with it. And this is similar to what I experienced in the previous study, where for interviews, we were able to get on average per township about 8 or 9 polygons per participant, the places they valued. Whereas on the web-based survey, we only got average of 1, and we only had 8 participants, and we didn't have a count of the number of people that actually visited the site. So in terms of that spatial data, we're really hoping that the interviews will pick up in person again here quickly, and that we can get some of that data. However, it's not a killer, you know, it's not something that we can't move forward without. It's just, it might make the report look a little bit different than the previous report, which might be good. So in terms of the spatial data, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Andre Scheinman's work when he did the inventory of cultural landscapes for the entire region. And he basically used a series of dots to indicate that there was an aggregation of heritage attributes, which led him to believe that it was a strong candidate site. So instead of there being defined polygons overlapped, it's just that the mapping data might look something like that, which I think would be okay. And then the final instrument for public participation, the community workshops. Yeah, they're still being held up because groups aren't meeting face to face. So the public participation side is not, let's say, not going swimmingly, but it's not a killer. Everything else is still moving ahead as it ought to. I've been able to get around now. I've been able to hang out with, not do formal interviews with key informants for the study on a friendship basis, because the university does not allow me to do interviews. And I've got some really great information doing that. And obviously we've recorded them, and I've been working closely with Warren Stotch. Are you familiar with Warren? Yeah, he and I are buddies. We travel around in his van together, and we do photography and identify landscapes that are of value. So I've got a few candidate sites in Wilmot, which I'd like to share with you, and maybe get some feedback from you folks and see what you think. What's great is that there's so much information in the Grace Schmidt room at the Kitchener Public Library that relates to these candidate sites. So I'm able to carry on writing the report, doing the photography. It's just not quite backed up with the spatial data that we've been hoping to achieve. So yeah, I guess without further ado, I'll move on and start talking about some candidate sites. The clearest, the best site, I think, in Wilmot is Huron Road. From Punky Doodles all the way into to Rosebank. I think it's a beauty. There's a huge amount of attributes, beautiful vistas, little traffic. You know, we had a great experience going into you know, Pine Hill Cemetery. When you're looking out to the west, there's that really old stone home there below. We stopped at the property, and she allowed us to go through her barn, and she still had the big wheels, and so that'll make it into the report. And you know, we were in the cheese factory and got some great photos of the cheese curing and things like that. So that's a clear, in my opinion, cut and dry candidate site. Yeah, and there's a clear linking theme across that landscape as well, with the development of the road, right? So the next one is Herbs Road. Again, a lot of great sites. Whether it's identified as one single site or numerous smaller ones is yet to be determined. I anticipate numerous smaller ones. So I would think that perhaps St. Agatha, the shrine, what's the plaque to that, the individual, the old school there. I have it written down somewhere. Anyways, there's a number of great elements, and then it'll probably switch in like Wilhelm Cemetery, maybe the St. Agatha Mennonite Church and other things will be to the west, and then Petersburg might be its own as well. So I anticipate that there'll probably be 3 candidate sites bumping into each other along Herbs. Yeah, Snyder's Road, you know, Baden, of course, the castle, and the larger landscape that has been shaped by that individual's legacy. Everything to do with the Lindsay factory, the mill pond, and other things, I think are another great candidate site. The Baden Hills, of course, from an Indigenous history perspective, I think that there's a really good opportunity to tie the Baden Hills into with some sections of Highway 7 and 8. From an archaeological point of view, there seems to be a lot of data on that. I haven't coded the information that I have pulled out of Gray Schmidt yet, but I know that there's some relationships there that are going to be easy to put together. Sorry, please go ahead. Oh, I think you're muted.
I think I'd know that by now, right? So any information, so when it comes to like all the above you've mentioned, we've either focused on it in an exhibit, or I have in the archives for Wilmette Township, I have information to help support whatever once that you're looking at, that'd be happy to complement with, especially when it comes to like Baden Hills and everything on the roads that you're mentioning, on designated, non-designated, the vistas.
I really appreciate that. That would be super helpful. And, you know, it is coming together, but of course your help would be, everyone says, oh,
Yeah.
you got to talk to Tracy. You got to go talk to Tracy. So
Because yeah, so as you share the points of interest, then we can even as a committee break off into groups and help collect the information for you as well from a local perspective.
That would be incredible. That would be really, really incredible. Okay, thank you. I'll take you up on that. So moving on, I believe that there's some room to identify a candidate site around New Hamburg. So beyond just the HCD that's already there, I think that Christner Road and a few other areas. I will be back in touch with Marie Voisin about getting a better understanding of William Scott and the legacy that he left on the landscape. Some other candidates, New Dundee, for sure. Sunfish and Spongy Lake, I mean, I'm an environmentalist at heart and I really want to have them included for that extra layer of protection, but I'm struggling to find the connection to the cultural heritage piece so far, but I think it'll probably come into place, particularly with Spongy because of its educational values. I think that's an easy case to make.
I visited Spongy Lake when I was at UW.
yeah. I TA'd an ecology class and we went there and the kids just absolutely loved it. Yeah, so some other things, the Hydrocut Trail System, I think that's a great candidate site as well because it shows community coming together and working together to create something that they share. So the trail system, interesting from an aesthetic perspective, given the relationship with gravel and cycling trails all in one place, but still I think it's worth taking a look at. What else? Yeah, photography is going very well. I've had some beautiful days. And I bought a new camera for the project, so some photos are coming along very nicely. Yeah, it's just the spatial data is really the one thing that's not going according to the planned schedule. Otherwise, it's actually going more easily than I anticipated, especially because of the amount of information at the Gray Schmidt room. So I have collected up until 1996 or 1993. I'll be back there over the weekend doing 93 to current through the WHS publications. Looking forward to reading an article by Harold actually about road names in Wilmot Township. And yeah, so the next step for me is I take all this information, I put it into qualitative analysis software called MaxQDA. And then you just code things by place names and it aggregates all the information basically so it's easy to read and then write a report, and it creates those kind of mental connections or the connections that are sometimes challenging to create without the assistance of the software. And yeah, I'd happily take any questions or if you have anything at all.
Great. Barry, I saw you had your hand up. Well, you go first.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, I just wanted to add that if it would help at all, we could provide any space you need for the Baden Outlook. We print 3,000 copies once a month. So that would kind of get the word out if that would help at all. If somebody could submit something,
Sure.
more than happy to do that. So,
is there a date you'd like that by?
yep, we would need it by the 1st of the month, and we print on the 15th.
Okay.
And it's just delivered for Wilmot Township. So
that'd be perfect. I think Bridget has some promotional material ready to go, so it might be as easy as just putting it in an email and sending it. So that's great. Thank you. We will take you up on that.
Excellent. Yvonne, I saw you had your hand up a few minutes ago. I didn't know if there's anything you wanted to add. No? Tracy?
I just have one more. So just so I understand, so I've written down some of the candidate sites that you mentioned. Would it be useful as you are collecting it, if you were to share it with the committee here, then we could perhaps if add on to it, or hey, there might be a section that maybe even Warren might not know about.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
He's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, but there might be some other little hidden gems that we could help support on helping this inventory for you from a committee level too.
I think that's yeah, I think that's a generous offer, and I will take you up on that. Now, in terms of the report, it doesn't necessarily, I don't make necessarily a complete extensive inventory of all heritage attributes in that particular landscape. I need to get it past OREG 906 and some other things, which is okay, that's doable. But I think that it's those little kind of quirky things that make the report special, and they're only known at a community level. And yeah, it would be great if you could add some of those things. That would be, yeah, I'll totally take you up on that.
And that would be great, because that way we can, if we're not getting the response, say from the general public that is not there, at least for all of us that live here in Wilmette, we can things that you're right, that I know that when we did years ago, we did a quilt exhibit, and one of the women that quilted was on Herbs Road, specific to a farm when you're driving that way and the sun is either rising or setting. And that was an iconic image. And some of us that when you're driving through Phillipsburg, that intersection, very iconic. And then there's the not so obvious that we might see on some of the more natural settings for Wilmette as well.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, that would be excellent. So I guess, would it be best if I just use you as a contact person for moving forward with this? And then I'd also really like to take you up on your offer before as well, about going into some, well, I guess it's kind of the same offer twice, but yeah, that additional information would be fantastic. Yeah, if
either myself or Nick, that works well. And then other kind of information, like I said, if you're reading the WHS books that we've got them in our reading room as well. Some other local perspectives too, all the independents, you name it, we have it. And then primary resources too, right, on some of the areas that we could maybe provide support.
That would be excellent.
And then I can share it with the committee, and we can all comment on different areas that different perspectives we all have, or different ideas to add.
That's a really awesome idea. So one of the things I'm thinking about now in terms of breaking up some of these major roads into distinct candidate sites is the original settlement blocks, like the German blocks. And so like some mapping on that at this point in time would be awesome to help me start to try to figure out some boundaries. But I was going to look in the Gray Schmidt room and receive some help there. But
have you been to the Heritage Wilmot website?
Yes, but it's been a minute.
So we have the map of the division of all the blocks, and then sort of our early settlement areas, and sort of the obvious ones and things like that. But you might find some added resource there. But anything we could do to help. And I think Yvonne's got her hand up too. Sorry, Yvonne, I'll stop talking.
Thanks, Tracy.
Go ahead, Yvonne.
Thanks. I'm just wondering, Chris, do you have any sense why the response rate is like almost zero? Not the response rate, the results.
Yeah.
The results.
I was asked the same question today by my academic advisor, and I told him, no, I don't. But really, I suspect that it's because it's time demanding. It's somewhat complicated, and you have to be passionate about it. And the whole idea of cultural landscapes isn't something that's grasped all that well. And I don't think people understand the implications of it. For example, I think if we were saying, let's go map places you want to see that are protected from an environmental perspective, then people would throw their hands up and say, yeah, let's protect the NIF, let's stop development into these agricultural fields, we need them for food, so on and so forth. But so I think part of it is the discourse around it is not well understood. It's not something that's in everyday vernacular. Having said that, we really marketed the last study. Like, we put flyers in every place we could go to. We called people, asked them to contribute. We walked people through the web-based survey, and we still only got 8 responses. And 2 of them were from one person. So it's just, it's I think it's really common with online engagement strategies that they're just not really effective. And I think if there's something about the passive recruitment strategy where you expect people to come to you, I think sometimes it's a lot better to go and call them on the phone and try to, you know, lock them into a meeting right there and say, okay, I need to speak with you. Let's set a time. And that's what worked best for me in the previous study. But there's a whole body of literature on this stuff, and yeah, online surveys are complicated.
I guess a little different than just being at a meeting and, you know, circling a spot on a map or something, that it's much more involved.
Yeah. And nobody's angry, right? When people get angry, they want to yell and they want to have some way to have that cathartic experience and say, oh, I'm mad, don't build a gravel pit. But it's something that makes you happy. It's like, well, it's fine. You know, I don't need to do anything about it. So anyway, maybe that's another piece of it too.
Mark, yes.
I'm sorry I joined late. That afternoon nap of mine stretched out a lot longer than it should have. But at any
problem.
rate, I just wanted to mention that probably Christopher knows this, that this is not German company tract land, it's Canada company tract. And also, if you're interested, I have the land transactions from early on for the, at least in detail, for the north half of Wilmette Township. And the land was given to the the Canada company was responsible for selling it to the early settlers. But at one time it belonged to King's College, which is the forerunner of the University of Toronto. And they had 100-acre lots. And if settlers couldn't afford the whole 100 acres, they would buy it in chunks. The north half, 50 acres, and then they'd add the south half, the other 50 acres, and that sort of thing. So it makes interesting reading. And if you wanted to take a look at the charts that I have, of which there are a lot, and if it's helpful, you could just contact me and then we could look over those books sometimes.
That would be fantastic, Mark. I'm not sure if you're open to this option, but maybe I could collect them from you over the weekend and take them to the Grace Smith room and then just use their book scanner and then bring them back to you. That way I have a copy so I can put them into the qualitative analysis software too.
Yeah, you may not want to take them all. There's 6 or 7 of them and they're huge orange sort of ledgers. And you may just want to pick out a couple, but I would have to get them to you somehow. We'll have to work that out.
Okay, well, I'll get in touch with you, Mark, after the meeting here. I'll send you an email.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah. Mark and I know each other pretty well. We worked on the last study together closely, and she was really
That's right.
central part of the Heritage Resource Center. So, anyway.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Well, I'll say for me, certainly I will go on the online, check out the website. I was poking around a little bit earlier, but I'll go and I'll put some spots in. Probably some of them are going to match similar to what you talked about tonight, because as you were going through your list, I was being reminded about some of those spots that I wanted to mention too. So I'll go on and do that, and hope everyone else can do the same, and we'll try and get the word out to the public, maybe through Barry's paper, and we'll see what else we can do.
Great. Thank you very much, Nick, and thanks everybody.
Thanks a lot for coming.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye, Chris. Well, that was really good. I didn't realize they were having such a challenge getting people to reply and send in mapping suggestions and results and things like that.
I had no idea either, so that's why I think it'd be nice that as a committee, once he shares sort of the details, that we can divide it in chunks like we've done on other projects. We can help enhance the list and make sure that he has all the right information or current information or at a local level information. So that'd be nice.
And if he's identified a lot of the sites already that he thinks are important ones, and then if we can add to that, or the general public can. I know from the format of the other study, it was identify each area, and then there's a bit of a write-up that goes with it. So
Mhm.
maybe if it's part of the populating the write-up that we can help out with. But it's a neat project. Anyone else have anything else on that? If not, I think we can move on then. So we'll go back to the business items. So first item under there was the non-designated inventory. I had their council recap and next steps. So overall, it was a great result at council last month. Thanks, Mark, for making the presentation for us and taking everyone through the additions and a couple deletions for the list. Since the meeting, Tracy and I finalized a letter to the property owners, letting them know that their properties were added. That's one of the newer requirements under the Heritage Act to advise people after properties have been added. So that we worked on that letter and it was sent out, was it last week, Tracy, I think? The week prior?
So this week it was sent out.
Okay, this week, yeah.
Yeah, so 17 property owners received the letter.
Great. And then we'll see if we hear anything else back from the property owners. So I just also wanted to chat about keep the momentum going and start to plot out what we want to do next for the register. I know one of the things we talked about was updating photos for some of the properties. So maybe that's something we can work on. And then I think we've got all the rural areas covered now, if I'm not mistaken. And so maybe there's we want to start moving to some of the settlement areas to see what buildings we want to or properties we want to pick up that way. So I'll just put that out there. Don't know what everyone's thoughts are.
If I think back, seems like forever ago, but I think we had a subcommittee for taking photos and looking at our current non-designated list. And like some of them are quite old. And now that the leaves are starting to fall, we can actually see some properties that I know some of the photos are really, the trees hide the properties. So it's just a matter of flipping through to see which ones. I know I can identify a couple that it would be nice to have updated ones, but certainly anyone can look through to see that we could find a better photo or enhance what we currently have.
I know Jen was gonna do that. Yvonne, were you on that? Or Scott, were you? I'm trying to think back now.
I wasn't, but I potentially could be.
Okay.
Yeah, I was on that.
Okay.
I think it all just got paused because of COVID.
Yeah, I know.
I know I offered to take a couple.
Okay.
I mean, ours and the, I think there's the church at the end of our road. So I'll do those. Sorry, I didn't.
That's okay. Maybe I wonder if it's better if we have like a good handful of people now on whether to have like a subcommittee meeting on just dividing it up and everyone sort of take theirs, like you mentioned, Patty, on take the ones that you can get to or identify, and everyone just does like say 10 or something like that each, or that way rather than being left on one or two people. And sort of a group approach.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Since Jen's not here, do you want me to just send an email out after?
Yeah.
And then you can get together, have I don't know, Tracy, if we can make a Zoom meeting link available for people to use.
Mhm. Absolutely. So that would be, so Jen, Scott, Yvonne, and Patty, and then and anyone else, of course, they want to, then I can do like a quick meeting invite and we can look through and divide up and conquer.
Non-designated list is divided geographically. So that might be a kind of a logical way to then divvy it up.
I like the settlements.
And I don't know if there are certain area, like I think some of the photographs, especially the older ones, seem to be they're the ones that have some issues where the buildings aren't that visible or might need updating, right?
Mhm.
So
That's a good idea. And that way we can look to see and identify. So yeah, Nick, if you were to send that, then I would be happy to kind of coordinate a meeting.
Sure.
And we can pick away at it for the next month or so. And then of course, with the non-designated, although it was approved September 27th, there's always editing that's needed. And or you look at it months later, like, oh, we could maybe tighten it up a little bit more, or if there's new information or information we need to change, that's always a living document for me. So I keep it for the next update. So if there's anything that needs to be done for that as well, just let me know.
And then what are people's thoughts then for, I guess, further review or updates to the register? Did we want to start looking at some of the settlement areas? Yvonne?
I would really like to see us add the bridges to the non-designated list.
Oh, that's a good idea. I forgot about that.
And Tracy, I think there was something else. I had mentioned it to you, and for the life of me, I don't recall what it was, but it was really important. So maybe you remember.
Natural, I think it was natural places. Was it Arboretum?
Oh, it was the Arboretum.
right.
Arboretum.
It was the Arboretum. That's what it was.
That's right. I'd already jotted that down.
Thank you.
Because then I would forget. But yeah, some of these other spots that we forget about as well would be included.
So maybe a next, I guess, area that we look at could be the photo updates, and then bridges, and if there's a natural area that we want to add. Maybe that's a good theme to look at for the coming year. How does that sound? Bear?
Is there any way to determine how old some of the homes are and then start categorizing them as far as worth, as far as whether they're designated?
Are you talking ones that are already on the list, or just
Nope,
generally?
other homes that we're missing. Kind of. Is there any registry of when homes were built? Like maybe Howie might know of that, or no?
Mark?
Yes, I have the land transaction records, particularly for the north half of Wilmot Township. And a lot of those records, while they go back to the assessment records and the land transactions, and there was an assessor that wrote down the dates of construction for a lot of the houses. And they weren't really supposed to. So what he did was he put one pen stroke through the date, but you can still read it. And I have quite a few of those. So that'll give you some dating. But how do you want to use this? Do you want to, most of those houses, a lot of the early houses are already on our list with the dates mentioned right on them. And if the date isn't for sure, then it's circa something, and it's pretty good educated guess as to when the house or the building was built. So what were you thinking that you wanted to do with those? List the houses from early estates to more recent times, or?
I just didn't know if we were missing something that was really historical, old wise, and I didn't know if there was documents that proved how old they were or not. So
Yeah, I have some of that.
And some of the things in the archives too, whether it's going to be old deeds or assessment rolls.
Right.
We have that all in the archives. But I think with the non-designated, where that original map, which might have been actually buried before you joined the committee, you probably wouldn't have seen the one that Nick had done on where we were starting, doing sort of the settlement areas first and leaving, like New Hamburg, I know we were leaving till last because it's so concentrated. But even in like the non-designated, it's chronological with the dates for the homes in there as well. But I think we're working all on the outside and then moving last towards the largest settlement area.
I wonder if there's some way to use the impact data maybe. I know it's not always super accurate, but
Yeah. I mean, we've just been doing so like land registry offices for confirmation if we don't have something in the archives.
yeah. And I know there was something about having there's something complimentary if it was a heritage committee doing research. I don't know if that was for copying things or giving things out, or
I think it's just for access to the registry office.
Okay.
That they send out that letter each year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That may be good for some of the, I don't know, if there is some way to organize dates, that might be good for some of the settlement areas, especially when we get into the bigger ones. I'll have to think about that. Mark?
I just wanted to make the committee aware that we had tried several times to get all of the older buildings on Snyder's Road, and it's difficult. That road is very busy, and you have to pull off at the side and take a photograph without entering the property. So some of those are not done.
Okay. And was that through Baden, Mark, or just in the rural areas? Or
It's in the rural area. Yeah.
just jotting that down. Barry, did you have your hand up again? Or was that from before?
I was just going to say, we're actually putting together our work program for 2022 for the committee.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is forward thinking. This is great.
Anything else on the inventory updates for now? I don't see any hands. So maybe then we'll leave it there for today and move on. Next item was the Bridge Street Bridge EA. And I know we talked about it last time. We're going to send some comments to the project engineers. I've been meaning to get that letter together and just haven't had a chance to finish that up yet. So it's on my list to finish up this week. And then I'll send that around shortly for people to take a look at. Yvonne, I know you and Jen said that you'd be happy to take a look at the draft for me. So I'll send that to you two for sure. And then once we've got a good draft, I'll send it to everybody. That was really all I had on there. I don't know if anyone else had anything on the Bridge Street Bridge EA right now. All right. Next item was, oh, Yvonne.
Sorry, this muting and unmuting and all that business. Is there what's the timeline for that? Do we know? Because it seemed to me that the fall was sort of a target time for the reports. Is that still the case?
I don't know overall project timing. I know they were going to try and have another community engagement open house or something this fall.
Like a public meeting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then from there, I guess finalize the EA report. So I think they were looking at, I thought I saw somewhere spring of 2022 to have the EA finished up. But I think their timing keeps getting pushed a little bit just with how we're able to do things. JC, is that maybe something that you could, I guess I can check that when we send the letter, and I'll just ask about overall timing so they can let us know. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Then the next item on the agenda was Holland Mills Bridge plaque. I know we talked about it last time. Things are well underway. Tracy, I didn't know if you had any updates to share with the group.
No, just underway, no updates yet. Was just getting past the choice of the non-designated register and reports and all those great things that went with that. So that's still on the docket.
Okay, and just remind me, that was, we had the text pretty much good,
Yeah.
and it was just doing the layout. And
That's correct. So yeah, Yvonne and I looked at it a little while ago, but just there wasn't anything more we could cut down. I think it was like the and to and it we got down to. So I'm going to send that one. I'll find it and send that around to everyone to have a
Yeah,
last.
we were getting pretty desperate to cut
Yeah.
down words, and there's only so much you can cut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we kind of hit that moment. So yeah, I'll circulate the committee and have a peek at it and go from there.
okay, that sounds good. All right, that was all under business. We already did new business. So moving on to correspondence, I did not have anything. Anyone else have anything to share?
I have one piece. I would have circulated everyone. Hopefully don't think I'm harassing you with all the emails I send everyone, but the Ontario Culture Days is still on. And if you haven't had a chance to try out, it's called Vintage Views of Wilmette. And Sherry Gropp had created QR codes to 3 communities in Wilmette. So New Dundee, Baden, and New Hamburg. And there's 4 locations within, and there were stickers that were placed on the sidewalks in front of these 4 locations, which we've learned people have peeled some off. So I was running around today with laminated QR codes and asking some business owners to put them in their window. But it's a really neat, engaging scavenger hunt, really. And you just scan the QR code, and we have photographs, black and whites from long ago, of what that spot looked like. And then you stand in that exact spot, and then to take a current picture and then post it on social media. So it's kind of a neat then and now. And it was our first time doing this. And Culture Days is on for like another 2 weeks. And just to look at our township a little bit differently, and from a heritage committee that you might be interested as well to try it out if you haven't yet.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Mark. Oh, you're
No.
muted, Mark. There you go.
Okay. I noticed in the paper, I think it was the Rural Times, I've forgotten, that a restaurant in New Hamburg is closing. You know the one I mean?
Do you mean
I had not seen that.
Angie's in St. Agatha?
No, the Old Country Restaurant, they're
The old-
retiring.
That's
sorry.
it.
They're
Yes,
retiring?
right.
Oh.
And they have terrific pictures on the walls of the restaurant, of what places in New Hamburg used to look like. I wonder what their plans are for the restaurant, to sell it as is with the pictures, or I'm just wondering, I'd like to see those pictures preserved, or us have them for our archive. I don't know. Maybe you already have all those pictures, or they got them from us in the first place.
I think Ernie Ritz had something to do with that one to help. But yeah, those
Yeah,
images
no
we'd
doubt.
have, and they put it on like a canvas and blew it up
Oh,
for the wall. Yeah. But I thought you were
Okay.
talking about, I do know Angie's is up for sale.
yes,
in
it
Agatha.
is.
So that, and
Oh, really?
being, that's on our list, right?
Yes.
Mind you, Old Country in New Hamburg is part of the Heritage Conservation District too. So that'd be 2.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I also noticed that the church and the Livingston Presbyterian and the little house next door is sold. Do you have any information on as to who or what's happened? No?
Not yet. I know that leading up to it, they've been great with us over the last year on allowing us to some of their older records that relate directly to the Livingston family that wouldn't have the same value to the Presbytery archives, especially when it comes to some of the work with the Livingston women. And so they've been great on sharing that, and some plaques and things that were inside related to the family. But No, I haven't heard officially, but I know that they've been great on sharing things with us before it's sold.
That's good. I guess wait and see. Barry, you had your hand up.
Yep. Just getting back to the Old Country restaurant, we were in there for lunch the other day, and Susan was telling us that it is sold. It's going to close for a month and reopen as another restaurant. So, and
great.
all she basically said was it's going to be more of an expanded menu. So
Well, that's good. It's going to stay as restaurant too. Excellent. I guess that kind of moved into number 8 as well. Any other info sharing? Anyone? Mark?
I assume that we're not having a Heritage Day at the end of February, right?
I think probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't officially discussed it, but yeah, I would imagine. And we could certainly, now that we have a little bit more notice, this past February, we did more of an online and kind of get maybe like a social media campaign. If we wanted to do that, or some kind of thing to share our heritage for Heritage Week, maybe think about that. I'll put that on the agenda for our 22 work program, how we'd like to celebrate Heritage Week 2022.
And maybe if everyone can, that's a very good point, Mark. We should start thinking about that already. But maybe we can talk about that a bit more next meeting. Everyone can kind of think of ideas. Yeah, I don't think we'll be able to do the full Heritage Day like we have done before, but maybe there's
well, we all know it's so unknown on what our restrictions are and going with the flow. But this past February, we did a campaign where each of you, we'd asked questions on what heritage means or a perspective, and then we had them all timed that twice a week there was something coming out from each of you on heritage, on giving a little bit of personality of who members are, what heritage means, or focusing on something special. So we could certainly do something similar to that on bringing awareness to whatever parts of heritage on Wilmette Township we'd like to highlight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds good. Anything else? Once, going twice. Okay, our next meeting scheduled for November 10th at 6:30. See everyone back here on Zoom. If there's nothing else, motion to adjourn. Barry. All right, well, thank you, everybody. It was a fast meeting tonight. Enjoy your evenings.
Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.